Well, good morning, Sonder family. Welcome to your Monday morning setup. You're here, you made it. You've carved out this time. We're just very glad to welcome you. My name is Jennifer Ogilvy. I get to be your facilitator on this Monday morning, our first full week of February. We're going to get that set up and then we're going to send you on your way. We have a lot of fun this morning. We get to also be with the fabulous Maya, and Maya is going to be hanging out in the chat. She's popping on the camera to give you a wave. I hope you can see her. We get Monday with Maya, and if you have any questions along the way, drop them in the chat, and she's going to do her best to point you in the right direction and get those questions answered for you. February is American Heart Month. And this past Friday was actually Go Red Day, where women are encouraged to wear red. I know the majority of our audience are female or identify as female. And we want to make sure that we're taking good care of our hearts because oftentimes we don't do that. So I always like to throw that mention in there about heart health for our month of February. And maybe some of you did wear your red on Friday. We've got some fun days this week. If you weren't aware, today is actually World Nutella Day. So there's a treat that you can carve out for yourself. But I love this quote: your Monday morning thoughts set the tone for your whole week. See yourself getting stronger and living a fulfilling and happier, healthier life. So, we're going to do that by kicking off with our weekly setup and planning our wonderful, wonderful week. So, there are our community guidelines. We always like to share these with you to remind you that Silk and Sonder, our time together, is always a time of being safe and just kind of being with each other for our journeys through our journals together. This is a tool to help you with your life, and we create a safe space. We ask you to limit promotions or spam, no promotions or spam, and then those questions about what kind of things do I use? What kind of go to Sonder Club to ask, like, what are the best tools? What are your favorite kind of things? Um, Also, just a reminder, this is your time, right? So this is a time to really dig into ourselves. At our weekly setups, we do a couple of prompts and then we actually set up for the week. And so we're going to be sitting with a couple of prompts that, this month is confidence. So we're doing some deep digging. If at any time something feels a little sticky, a little tricky, give yourself the space to let it bump around in your head for a little while before you answer it if it doesn't feel like it's the right moment to do that. Always take care of yourself. That's the main reminder. Make sure that your chat is set to everyone. That way we can share. We'd love to do our sharing at our socials, and especially during our setup time. You guys are great about sharing kind of what works for you and what you've done. And so we want to make sure that you can do that. And then you have volume control if you want to just look at the slides and not listen to me or not listen to the music. Feel free to dial that down. You always are invited to take what you need when we are gathered together. So, of course, as I mentioned, we're working on confidence this month. And the definition in the front of that of our journal is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. Firm trust. And then what I love about the journals now that was new in January is that we get that space in our journal to write down what confidence means to ourselves. And we get to kind of frame that out in your life and your experiences and your journey. What does confidence mean to you? I've actually left mine blank. I'm going to work on some prompts this month, and I think I'm going to end the month by kind of defining what it means to me. You may want to define it now and then go and take another look at the end of the month and see if if there was an area where you grew and you changed your definition. Um, so, our time together, we're going to be working on that confidence mind map. If you're new to us, drop a me in the chat so we can give you a big welcome to a social, a setup social. We want to be sure that we welcome. Oh, we've got some new friends, my friends. So, welcome. You guys, this is our time to carve out. Our accountability partners are here. And so, if you're brand new, to a weekly setup, we're going to every week work on what we call a mind map. And it's a little bit of a deeper dig into our monthly theme. And it's kind of a bonus. There's not a place in your journal that has this. So every month we will be digging into that theme through a different lens each weekly setup. It's really a neat thing to do. Then we're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection, and then we will just set up those weekly pages. And I'm going to send you on your way for a fabulous week. So, this month we're going to reflect on how confidence shows up in all the different areas of your life. And so, again, it's going to be over 4 weeks. So, your mind map page will have 4 spaces. This can be done anywhere in your journal. You can do it on a blank notes page. Some folks like to do it on the definition page, they'll draw 4 quadrants there. There are those who like to use that weekly scratch pad from week to week to answer each weekly prompt. So this is a space that you get to decide where it goes. You may even want to keep it in, some of us have sidekick journals that we put those extra prompts in. So you may be putting it there or even on just a regular old scratch pad. And Alexandria just said she's going to use that quote page 38. So when she's looking at confidence, there's that quote about it. And then Tiffany says she's going to go to page 60. And I actually am taking a hint from our facilitator, Bailey, who says, I just do it on that last page. So I'm with Tiffany. I'm on that page 60 because it makes it easy to flip to it. It's just right there on that last page. Yeah, the sidekick journals, Catherine, all those extras where I have a thoughts journal and I have another little book where I scribble scrabble. So let's get going. Let's look. So week 1, we are digging into having how do you see confidence in your abilities? And so I'm going to ask you this morning to reflect on 3 greatest strengths. And I hope you have a list of 100. And jot down specific examples of actions, behaviors, or accomplishments that sort of support that idea of what you feel are your greatest strengths. So confidence in our abilities. And I love this is a quote from Anna Freud. I was always looking outside myself for strength and confidence, but it comes from within. It is there the whole time. And very quickly, I'll share, some of my strengths. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm older. I'm 60, and I am a much more confident person than I was, say, 40 years ago when I was just starting out. So I have grown. I think this might have been a hard one for me to do back in the day. So you get a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and maybe you just get to that point where you do you. You don't care what other people think. Um, but to start with, I said that, my 3 greatest strengths, and I told Maya, I feel like I had quite a few. So I'm kind of proud of myself for that. But I am a team player. I always loved working with others, helping others to find how to use their gifts, especially when I was working to help lead by example, be that cheerleader for folks. I'm a great organizer, planner. That's kind of, I feel like I do that in my whole life. When I was working within my family, I'm the one that kind of makes it happen. I'm the ringleader, and sometimes that's exhausting, but I realize that is a strength, an ability that I have. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to be the planner and the executor. I want to be the dreamer, and then I want to bring others along for the ride with me. And then I think that I have this sense of loyalty. I do feel like that's an ability for me. I can be counted on through thick and thin. I show up. I will have your back. And some of that does feed that need that I have to be needed and to be valued. There's that exchange for me. So that's how I frame that out. Now I want to share some wonderful some things to support that with you. And Maya discovered this wheel of character strengths. So if you're sitting there and you're kind of like, I'm not sure where to go with this, those words are great words to land on, to maybe think about, to spur on what you find as your greatest strengths in those abilities. And just remember, self-confidence is a superpower. And we've done a couple of prompts lately, like what is your superhero strength? Think about those. Because once you start to believe in yourself, that magic starts happening. And again, I'm a little bit on the older end of life, and I feel like, I did start believing in myself as I aged and had life experiences, and magic does start happening. And then, to go along with that wheel, this is just a whole list of a whole bunch of words. So, it might help you as you frame this out, because I know it's Monday morning. Sometimes it's hard to come up with this stuff. And yes, Maya just dropped the article, the link to that article that contained this great information, that positivepsychology.com. What are your strengths? And also embedded in that article are a couple of tests or quizzes that you can take to find out your true strengths. And I know we love a quiz, right? The Sonder family loves a quiz. So I'm going to give you a good chunk of time to work on this. Don't worry, I'll go back and forth between these slides so that you have time to take them in. And then as you're comfortable and you're working on this, share in the chat what they are and how that shows up. Like what are the things that support those things that are your strengths? And then we will be back to check in and move forward with our setup. Thank you for sharing in the chat, and you may want to take a little more time to reflect on this prompt. It's a good one, right? When you really start examining your strengths and perhaps you create a space where you as you travel through confidence this month, you gravitate toward some other words, not just the three, but maybe you really do some self reflection on what you have to bring to the table. And I want to comment on a couple of things that I saw. Um, Marianne, or Marion shared that one of her strengths is that she is being a rule follower to a fault. And she says, I do see it as a strength because it shows respect and regard for others and it keeps things running smoothly. But there are some things, when I mentioned I feel like I really am loyalty is one of my core values and I can be loyal to to a fault. And sometimes that may not be what I need at a particular moment. So I think that's something to really investigate. If I'm so loyal that I don't take care of myself, then that strength and that confidence might kind of stand in the way of me doing what I need to do for me. And then Sherry kind of shared something along the same lines because she just stepped into a leadership position. And she says, it's that new position embraces her strengths, which is a blessing, but it also feels exhausting. So I think when we can examine those strengths through that lens, and realize, but we've got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. That really does build our confidence. It's like we have this power, we know how to use it, right? So, thank you for taking a moment to dig into that. And again, you may want to kind of look at this on repeat through the month and think about the rest of your strengths that you bring in that shows confidence to the world. So now we're going to do the rosebud thorn reflection, which is always a wonderful look back of the past week. Helps us kind of figure out what went great, what we want to bring into the next week, what we want to say goodbye to. If you are a purist and you finished out January, you will find this reflection on page 56. But if you are already in February, like I am, this is going to be on your page 30 in February. And we're going to just take a look at what last week was like. The roses are the things that we celebrate that make us happy, that brought us a lot of joy. Maybe it was an accomplishment, or time spent with somebody that you loved. What just made you smile that just really was that glimmering moment of the week. A bud can be an emerging opportunity, something that's coming forth, something that you might be working on now. You're planting those little seeds, and you may see something a little bit further down the road, those emerging opportunities. And then the thorn is exactly what it says. And some thorns are just there and they're living with us. And it could be something like health issues for yourself or caring for someone with health issues. But there are also temporary thorns that, sometimes if we just write it down, we can say goodbye to it and leave it there. So that's the value of doing this reflection each month. My thorn, I have sick grandkids again, and it's hard. And I try to help when I can. And there's some flu going around, so I'm not able to help physically because they don't want to they don't want to get me sick, but it just makes for kind of a yucky week. My bud is my daughter's getting married in November, and I started the mother of the bride dress shopping, which would have normally been a horrible experience. But I went with my best friend, and we found ourselves just rolling in the dressing room because, oh Lord, I don't know who designs for women, but we have eliminated a lot of styles, and we had such a good time, and I was so glad to take someone along with me to turn that into, a fun time, and so that's my bud because I have a feeling for the next 9 months I'm going to be doing that, and then my roses, I have we joined a church back in August, but I made a brand new friend who joined, and we found out we have people in common. I actually worked in a church, so we had a lot of people in common, and I just see immediately it was like, hey, me too, one of those kind of people. And so I really see that as my rose. So while we take a moment to work on this prompt, share in the chat as you're comfortable, what were your roses? Let us celebrate together, and then let us hold space with each other for our thorns. And I'll be back to check in just a moment. Thank you for sharing your roses and your buds and your thorns this week. And I'm seeing some things about medical stuff, and that can be both a rose or all three really, a rosebud and thorn. Sometimes this reflection will be one and the same. And I told Maya this morning, I almost put the same thing down for all three boxes when I'm looking back. I am anticipating jury duty tomorrow, and it's for the county, and those tend to be longer cases. And I said, I feel like if I put it as a thorn, I shouldn't. It really shouldn't be a thorn because we're very fortunate that we have the whole system. But it could be a rosebud and thorn. Like I'm happy that we have this system in our country to do it. The bud could be, who knows what's going to happen. It's a new opportunity. I get to get on the road and go downtown. I don't get to do that very often, but it can also be a thorn. So jury duty might be all three for me as well. Yeah, a day to read. Exactly, Michelle. I got a book. I got a book to take. So, you never know what it's going to be. But thank you for sharing in the chat. Again, we celebrate those roses for all of you, for showing up, for being that person to another person. I saw lots of that connection that happened last week. But we also just, we're hanging out together with those thorns and reminding each other that we got each other's back. So we are now ready to dive into our weekly planner. And these are going to be on pages 32 and 33. It's week 6 of 2024. And I always like to just kick it off with dropping in the chat. How do you want to feel this week? That's that very first little box up there. How do you want your week to go? So just drop that in the chat. You can think about using one word, several words, a phrase, maybe there's a mantra, or maybe you found an affirmation last week that is really speaking to you. Okay, I'm seeing peaceful. I want to feel heard. I want to feel organized, energetic, content, accomplished, for that forward momentum. Absolutely. Remember that graphic I had at the very front end of this is like, what are we doing on Monday morning to set ourselves up for that good week? Maybe you throw a sticker in this space that will encapsulate that feeling that you want to have, or a quote. What is your focus this week? Folks want to feel ready, feel present, feel determined. So many things. So think about that feeling, and we're going to jump into those weekly major 3 goals. So I love this quote, a dream written down with a date becomes a goal, right? So we're going to have our goals for this week. And then we're going to take those goals and maybe break them down into steps, which can become a plan. And those steps can be found either in our to-do list, perhaps they become part of our habit trackers. And then when we have that plan is backed by action. When it's backed by action, it becomes reality. So it's going to be a great week. Lots of ways to frame out those goals. Take a look at those intentions and the habit tracker that you have for the month. Of course, always thinking about confidence, maybe looking at those abilities that we have that we're confident about. Um, Perhaps we do the no goals where we eliminate things that are not serving us. Are there some outstanding goals that you haven't accomplished yet, but you want to bring forward? These don't have to change up from week to week if there are still some things you're working on. Perhaps you have a single challenge for the week. It's going to be a health week or a rest week, and your goals are tied into those. Lots of the Sonder family will just choose 3 categories and then pop a goal in to fit each one of those categories. And then I want to remind you also to consider, if you chose a word of the year or you have a vision board, be sure you're checking in with those things periodically, because that might inspire the goals that you have for the week. Now, I did not mention, if you are sitting here brand new and you've not been to a setup before, you might want to grab a screenshot with either, take a picture with your phone or hit those screenshot keys if something speaks to you. When you're first learning how to set up this journal for your life, you're going to have like all these ideas, and it might take a little while. So if you grab some of these screenshots, it'll help you maybe think about, okay, I think I want to use this in this particular space. Also, we will always record these, so you will have access to a recording that you can go back. So I always want to ask you, how are those goals going to support the way that you want to feel? What is your why behind those goals for the week? And you can have 3 goals, you can have 1 goal, or you can have more if that's what you need. You know exactly what is happening in your life. So here are some examples. from our Sonder family so that you can kind of be inspired. We always love to see your examples. So if you are comfortable, post those in Sonder Club, and it inspires one another. Now, I love when I see folks, I'm not quite this organized. I don't use my to-do box as a to-do box. I use it as a ta-da box. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I love when I can see how Sonder family will do their goals, and then they put the to-dos that will align with those goals for the week. So you can see these 2 examples there on the left, setting those 3 goals, and then the to-dos support those goals. So I think that's great. The one on the right, you can see they've made little trackers to make sure that each day they're doing that check-in with that goal, and acknowledging that. And then there's a ton of ways to repurpose this. If you're like, I'm not gonna set goals this week, you can use this for quotes, maybe some shows or podcast or movies you want to watch, or maybe how to embrace winter. We're hopefully starting to get glimpses of, okay, we're in February, that means spring's around the corner. How can I embrace the last part of winter? Songs, create a mini bingo board here, just throw a sticker in this space that makes you smile. And because a lot of times those to-dos for the week are tied in with goals, let's take a look at that. So this space can be used in a number of ways. And I've got kind of a little list up there in the upper left if you want to grab that. And I'm going to show you some examples of several of these things. I always like the idea of a dread list, those things that you don't want to do. Maybe that goes in your to do, so that when you're opening that journal, you're staring at that dread list and you make yourself do that. Or maybe it's the undones from January go into your to-do list this week. You can use stickers. You can divide this section up, like you can see some of these examples that Sonder family has done. There's that Eisenhower matrix. We always love to talk about that. This is for those really long to-do lists, or maybe you're just having trouble prioritizing how to get things done. Draw yourself a little Eisenhower matrix and plug those to-dos in there, and it will really help you identify the important, urgent things, and the things that can maybe, this week are not as important and not urgent, and you can either delete it or delegate it. Get it off of your plate. Um, the Pomodoro method is actually a great idea for big projects or when you have times that you need to work on things. And so what you do is you actually set a timer for 25 minutes. So you tackle um, a task for 25 minutes, and then you take yourself a little 5-minute break, and you do that 4 times. But each break, you kind of evaluate, where am I? How am I doing? Do I have time to keep working on this? And I'm going to use the Pomodoro method this week when I'm working on my garage. So I'll do 25 minutes, take a break. 25 minutes, take a break. Do that 4 times, and then take a good long break. And then maybe I need to just change tasks at that point. But kind of having that time frame will help with that motivation. Keep going. It's going to end. And then you can frame this out as a to feel list or a to be list if that's something you're working on, especially as we're digging into this idea of how we see confidence in our lives. And then I mentioned before, I'm team ta-da. I leave this spot blank, and my to-dos go on my dailies in that weekly spread. And then I will put anything that I am proud of that I did and that I accomplished in that ta-da space. So, and then, you might even want to make a don't list. What do you need to not do this week? What is not serving you? So I'm going to put on some music while you work on your goals and your to-dos, and let us know, do you repurpose these sections? How do you set them up? And share what you are planning to do this week in your goals and to-dos. And we'll be back to check in just a few minutes. Righty. So thank you for working on these two sections, our weekly goals and that to-do space, or perhaps you're leaving it blank to make it a to-do space, or you've repurposed. Now we're going to jump down to the bottom of this page and look at that habit and activity tracker. And if you're brand new and this is kind of your first time to set up, you've got that big habit wheel at the front end of the journal. And those are those habits that we are kind of sort of thinking about doing most of the days of the month. Those are kind of those on repeat habits. So we have the weekly tracker, and it's like, well, why do we have two trackers? I love the weekly tracker because it can be set up to correspond with whatever you have going on in your week, that particular week. And there may be some habits that you need to be sure that you are employing for that particular week. It could have, maybe it has to do with, cooking, and you want to do your meal planning, and you're going to make sure that, those days are designated for that. One of my weekly habits is always go check the monthly habits tracker. So I can put a check there when I go look at that monthly habit tracker and look at those things that I want to do on most days of the month. You may take some of those monthly things that you put on there and put them in this weekly tracker. Maybe you're really working on trying to get a new habit incorporated into your world, your life. And so you're going to have two spots that you are looking at it, and you are seeing that and being reminded this is something I'm trying to dig into this week. So here are some great ways to set this space up. If you choose to use the weekly tracker, you may want to X out days that, are not going to speak to you in this space. Lots of folks will use this space as maybe their work day tracker, the things that they need to do at work. And then the monthly tracker tends to be the more personal, kind of at home life self. And so you might just X out the days that you're not working and not worry about tracking those things. If you're kind of framing this out as your work tracker, you don't have to fill in every single line. You can see a couple of examples on this page where our fellow Silk and Sonder family did not fill in every space. You can set a goal for the number of times you want to do a particular thing, but you can also not set a goal and just use this as a straight tracker. You just mark it when it happens. If you notice, there's a couple of trackers that have days actually circled, and that's for that particular thing to happen on that particular day. That's a great way to frame that out. And then I have a ton of kind of habit and activity inspiration things for you to take a look at if you're sitting there and you're not quite sure what to do. So I'm going to put on some music so that you can work on this. And please share what do you track? How do you use this space in your journal? Because what you do might inspire someone else. Okay, thank you for sharing in the chat. I noticed some folks are like honing in on kind of a topical habit tracker. So it has to do with like all their health stuff goes right there in that habit tracker. And then there's several of you who are tying all these habits into the how you want to feel this week or what are your goals? Again, referring to maybe those intentions that you set for the month. And Marion posted that she's going to keep putting some stuff every week. These don't need to be new every week until she's checking that off until she doesn't have to check it off anymore, until it really does become this hardwired habit. So don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel every single week. If these habits, you need that prompt to make sure that they're happening. You write it down and you keep doing it. Remember, it takes a while for a habit to truly become ingrained in your brain. So it's important that we don't just change these up all the time. And put you some wins on there and then some new things that you're trying to work on. So now we're going to go to our next page. As facilitator Katie says, it's like the B side of the album. And this page has the meal plan, the mind body health plan, our shopping list, and that little box that says I am loving. And this page tends to get a lot of repurpose. So if you are one of our newer Sonder family members, I'm going to show you a lot of examples from our Sonder family of how maybe they rework this page, some of these sections to work best in their life. So we're going to start with that meal plan, and they're not an exhaustive list, but a pretty good list of the things that I've seen other people do. So you might want to grab a screenshot if that's a space that you might not be using as a meal tracker or a meal planner. We love the space because it's just got these big, good, juicy little rectangles in there. We do a lot of writing in that space. And as you work on this page, I'll go back and forth through all of these slides so that you can see them and take a look. If something speaks to you, you can grab that screenshot. The one in the middle, this showed up a couple of weeks ago, and I just love the idea of a meal plan for my soul. And so that very intentional reflection on a daily basis. I know that this person is changing kind of the journal prompts up from week to week, but it's a really nice way to reflect on a day or on that, how am I feeling today? Something I did well today. I just think that's a lovely way, the meal plan for my soul, because we do need to feed our souls. The mind body health plan. This is probably the space that gets changed up more than any space in my personal journal. I bounce all around with this. So something that I do want to point out is the idea of how do I feel and what do I need? And this can be done as a start of the day reflection or a midday reflection or an end of the day reflection. And I kind of like that idea of asking, paying attention to how I'm feeling and what is that telling me that I need in my life right now. That just sort of self check in. There's a lot of ways to, folks will divide this up and ask yourself, how did I care for myself? Maybe that 5 minutes for me. How am I going to take a little break? What are some ideas that I can incorporate to give myself just a 5-minute break? Mind body health is broken down, as you can see on the upper left there. Maybe you're a Wordle player, you put your Wordle of the word of the day. Again, lots of different ways to frame this out. How are you filling your cup? Maybe this is a space that you track that. What have you done for yourself? The self-esteem journal, I have done this one a lot, where it's again like that daily reflection, that feeding my meal plan for my soul, kind of that little mini reflection each day, doing some journal prompts. Again, I'll go through all of these. Perhaps you focus in on a week of gratitude and use this framework to do that. I think alliteration days are fun. Motivation Monday, Transformation Tuesday. Found this great graphic. This is kind of new. It's just fun. So if you want to make your day a little extra fun, you might want to land on Talent Tuesday or Wellness Wednesday. Again, I'll come back to those. That shopping list, wow, does this space get repurposed a lot? Now, I do a bingo. I'm team bingo here. This is where I drop that bingo, but you can see folks are putting in daily steps, tracking self compliments if you're working on talking kindly to yourself, a social check in. I leave this one in there every week. I love this. I've done this one a couple of times in my mind body health space to where I am just being very deliberate in taking time to touch base with the people that are in my life. I did a birthday week bingo. I'm going to do that every year. So if you have a special thing this week, it might be kind of fun to frame that out in some fun activities for a birthday or anniversary, or maybe a kiddo's birthday. Some more ideas to frame that out. Shopping list could go, or in your shopping list, you could do your chores. Again, Wordle Wings, maybe you've got your bills. Maybe in your shopping list, you just put no spending, that reminder that you're seeing. Again, we make this work for us. Um, you can see that one of these shopping lists has been done into the dinner plan. So kind of that main meal of the day. And then you're using that meal tracker for something else. And then what are you loving? I love this little snapshot. Like right now at this very moment, what are you loving? So let me put on some music while you work on all of these pages, and I'll go back and forth between the examples. And again, let us know what you do in these spaces. All right. So we've worked on this page, kind of the page two of our week. Thank you for doing that. I love that I'm seeing, I tried this, it worked. I'm doing it again because I'm kind of incorporating these new habits. They're becoming um kind of fixed in my mind. And I love that for you guys. You're seeing how this tool will work for you. And that's just, we see such growth. So, very quickly, I would like to just touch base about that Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday weekly spread, show you some ideas of how people divide this section up for each day to make that work in their lives. So if you feel like you're seeing something that you like, grab a screenshot. There's spaces, they're creating spaces for health, for home. Maybe some of these spaces actually tie into some of the things that you've set up this morning in your tracker. Again, kind of that accountability piece where it's all tied in and everything's working together. Go take another look at the intentions that you set for the month, and perhaps they show up somewhere here as a reflection in your day to day. You can see like that to-do list on the example in the on the left page or left side, to-dos and then the chores. And so maybe that way your actual to-do list becomes a ta-da space because you're doing your to-dos during the week. There's somebody's a gardener doing a little daily sketch. So you can kind of think about the things that are in your life, the things that are important to you, and use the weekly spread for making sure those things happen. Again, if you'll look at the right, there's some journal reflections in there, the win for the day, those kind of prompts. How can I improve? So just that daily check in. And finally, we would love to see your pages in Sonder Club. Was it Michelle said yes. She does the Mind Body Health Plan. She color codes everything, and that's her. She's using the Mind Body Health Plan as her color key, so that she can take those colors and put them back into what is going on for the rest of the week. We'd love to see that, Michelle. If you're comfortable sharing in there. There are those QR codes that I want to remind you of. There's a QR code for the social survey that you'll receive. You also receive this in a follow-up email, but if you want to scan in that QR code, and in those surveys, that's a good space to put in things that you'd like to see in your journal, maybe times that work great for you for different setup socials. I will say, these journals are mocked up months and months ahead of time, but some of the changes that we see in the journal that, came in January are because of feedback that the Sonder family provided. It might not happen right away, but it is definitely taken. That feedback is taken, and then they try to figure out, is this something that we can implement? So while you might not see it for a bit, it will happen. If you want to upgrade to the annual subscription, you save a good chunk of change. Also, we love referring. If you love Sonder family, refer the Sonder Silk and Sonder journal to a friend. You're going to get $10. Your friend will get $10. And then the all important YouTube link, you're going to want that so that you can go and access, gosh, almost now, I think we're close to 700 socials that you can dig through and find some prompts. If you ever need to just sit with your journal and write, there are a ton of old socials that you can go access and can, uh, maybe work on some stuff if you just need some inspiration for that. There's my playlist for this morning, and I'll also drop that link in the chat. I'm just so glad that we got to share our Monday together. It's going to be a great week. Thanks for showing up and being with us, Sonder family. We'll see you next time.
What's wrong with being confident? What's